So if you use Google Sheets to manage leads and wished, you could just click a button to add calls or meetings to your Google Calendar. In today's video, I'm going to walk you through how to do just that. So we have a setup here where we can select a call type, and then you can just type in a call time. Kind of the way you do that is like Friday at 6 p.m. or you could do like June 6th at whatever time. And then we have a drop down here where we're going to do add to calendar, and then we'll mark it as scheduled, and then optionally you can mark it as completed after you've done that call. So what we're going to do is add a little script to help us parse this out and make this happen. So once the script is complete, we'll go ahead and just call this calendar project, and then we're going to call this just check my sheet, something like that. And then what we're going to do is use this kind of like an on edit, but we can't use a simple on edit because we are accessing the calendar. And so here in a minute, we're going to add a trigger over here under triggers, and we'll make it run every time we edit the spreadsheet. And then we're going to check for add to calendar in this column. So we're using this E to track what changed. And so we can get some data from that. And so we'll do something like let range equals e.range. And from this range, which is what was edited, so for example, this cell, we can get the column and the row. So let's go ahead and do that. So we'll do let column, range.get column, and then our row. And then we can also get the value that was added. And then one thing, we may want to restrict it to only work on this sheet if you have multiple sheets. And so let's go ahead and get that as well. So let source e.source.get active sheet. And so this gives us enough to get started with. And so what we're going to do is a if statement to check a couple conditions. So for example, the source.get name, so the name of the tab that was edited, is equal to the name of the sheet that we want to use, which is in this case leads. And then next we want to make sure we're working in the right column. So this is column 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So only if column 6 was edited. And we combine conditions with this double ampersand, and then we put them all inside of these parentheses. So to add another condition, I'm going to do another set of double ampersands, and then do value is equal to add to calendar. And then this should get us what we need to know that we want to now get this row of data and add some of this stuff to the calendar. So we'll probably do something like cold call with Wolfgang at Friday at 6 p.m. So let's get that row of data. So let data is equal to source, because that's our sheet. Get range, and then we have our row already. And then we'll start with column 1 row, and then for the number of columns we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 I think that we need. So we'll do 5, get values, and then I'm just going to do dot flat just to turn it from a 2D array into 1. And so that's going to make what we're about to do next a little simpler. So let's go ahead and get this stuff. So name, phone, call type, and call time. And so we'll assign those to some more variables here. So name, and then here is where if we didn't do this flat, we'd have to do 0 and then do another one. But since we did flat, and so we can do 1 instead. And the reason we do 1 is because in this array on this back end, it starts with 0, not 1. And so this would be 0, and then this would be 1. And so the rest of it should now make sense. Let phone, data 2, let call type, data 3, and then let call time. And this would be data 4. All right, so now we should be able to create our event. And so I have this pulled up. And so we have create event from description. And so this is what that looks like. Calendar app, get default calendar, create event from description. So I'm just going to copy this and pull this over here. And so we don't need that comma there, and I'll go ahead and pull that back. And so what we're going to do here is we need to populate this from this data. So the way we do that is what's called a template literal. So instead of these single quotes, I'm going to use the back tick, which is with the tilde on my keyboard, and then we're going to replace these. So when you use these backticks, you can use what's called the template literal, which is a $sign and 2 angle braces. And then inside that, you can put a variable. So for example, call time. And then over here, we can come up with what will be the calendar title. And so let's do cold call with Wolfgang. So call type with name, just like that. And so that should give us the event. And the last thing we want to do is, if we selected add to calendar, is to change it to scheduled. So we already have our tab, which is source. So source.getRange, and we have our row, and then our column will be 6, set value, and set it to scheduled. All right, so I'm just going to do format, all line a little bit there. So all we need to do now is authorize the script and add the trigger. So I'm going to go ahead and do both at the same time from the trigger menu. It's going to ask me for the correct permission. So add trigger, and we want that function that we just wrote. And then down here, make sure to change the event type to on edit. And then we can click save. And now it's going to ask me for permission to both the Google Sheet and to the Google Calendar. And so this is just Google's disclaimer. So obviously if you just wrote the script, then you're going to be fine. And then go to calendar project, and then access to the Google Sheet to get that data, and then access to the Google Calendar so we can add the events. Click allow, and then it will add this trigger. Once this trigger shows up here, then we can go back to the editor. This should be all good to go. So let's go ahead and check this out. So let's go ahead and add to calendar and see if this all works correctly. So just change the schedule, so I think it's working correctly. Let's go to calendar, and sure enough, there's our 6 p.m. cold call with Wolfgang Hansmann. So one thing we may want to do is to add something to the description, maybe the phone number. So if we go back to here, it doesn't give us a way to add anything to that event, but if we go to calendar event, we can add stuff after we create the event. So we could do things like set description. And so let's go back to here. So here's where we create the event. If I do let event equals to that, now I can do event, and now you can see those different options. And so here's where I could come down and I could do set description, and then I can use again those backticks, and I could say phone number, and then add that phone right here, just like that. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this, and then we're just going to recreate it and see if that still works. So let's go ahead and do add to calendar. And just change to scheduled. So let's go check the event. Let's refresh so it'll show up. So cold call. And sure enough, there's a description with that phone number. All right, so that's it for today's video on a simple way to add calendar events from your Google Sheets. Make sure to check out the other videos on our channel for more tutorials on both Google Sheets and AppScript. And as always, have a great day.